Hi, Debbie. Um,
Good morning.
yeah, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for being here today. Yeah, like what I wanted the reason for bringing you on the podcast today is, yeah, to talk about you and your business, and yeah, just how we met and how we connected, and just the creative journey that has led us to this point. And what the reason or the draw that brought me to you in the first place, and what I love about the work that you do is regenerative business and the way that you work with the natural cycles of things. And yeah, a bit of an opening question would be, yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Like when you say regenerative business, what does that mean for you?
Ooh, awesome. Yeah, what a great question to kick us off with. And one that I love talking about. So, yeah, first of all, as well, just to say thank you very much for having me. It feels like such a wonderful opportunity, and yeah, real like pleasure and delight to do it together as well. So, thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
So regenerative business for me, I think there's like it's one of those umbrella terms I would say that has like lots of different threads to it. But yeah, like you say, it for me it's really about working with nature and using nature as a teacher in a way. So um I really love I always forget the exact wording of it, but there's a Steve Jobs quote about you can only ever join the dots looking backwards,
Yeah,
something like that. So like basically the teaching from it is like just follow the aliveness and like some suddenly the dots will join up in the future. And um yeah, for me that's been really how I've got to regenerative business. So I've always been a lover of the outdoors. I've always enjoyed spending time in nature and particularly in mountains. And yeah, just always felt this real draw and connection to the outdoors. And so, because of that, I studied earth sciences at uni. But what happens when you're an earth science grad, or at least when I was an earth science graduate many years ago, um, the like headhunters are all from the oil industry and mining and things like gemology and insurance, I guess, all very extractive at the heart of it, like very extractive industries. And so I went down that path initially and like always had this niggle that something wasn't quite right. Um, and so long story cut short is I left that and started my own coaching practice. Um, and really delved into the world of like self-development and authentic relating and creativity. Um, while still having this like yearning to like incorporate more of this earth-based way or like go back to my technical learning around the earth and how it worked. And so how I first came across regenerative business was that for me it was really this like marrying together of the relational aspect of the coaching work I was doing and the more earth-based background that I had. So like with that, I would say that regenerative business is has like two main themes to it for me anyway. And one is like the practical sense of how we as human beings can work like in a more cyclical way. And like the other aspect of it is then this real more like energetic way of working where we can really Yeah, like when I said about following the aliveness, I think that that's it. It's like following that spark and the aliveness in what we do and finding like more meaning and fulfillment in our work and what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I love what you said there about the aliveness and the following the path forward. And what was kind of coming to me was, yeah, like before you went on the path to do sustainability as a career, like where did that originate from? Like was there parts when you were growing up or like through your teen years that was threaded from? Like, the whole thing of wanting to find the aliveness, like, did you do certain projects and things growing up, or where did that come from?
Yeah, I think that so I think that the like the common thread for me throughout has always been this love of the outdoors. So I would say that I'd maybe describe it as I feel most like myself when I'm outdoors. And that might just be walking through a forest, or it might be, on top of, I live in Scotland, so there's access to awesome mountains here. And yeah, that feeling of like being on top of a mountain and like seeing this 360 view. Um, or yeah, being in the water, like there's a river, just going to the river and going into the river, like that's for me, as I say, those are always the places that I feel most like myself. Um, and yeah, when I trace that back throughout my childhood, it's funny because like my friends will still joke with me that when we were 5 years old and we were playing with Barbies, they were all like making houses and dressing the Barbies. And I had this toy camel, and I was always packing my Barbie up onto the toy camel and taking it off for hiking expeditions, you know. Um, and yeah, that really continued through getting into the Duke of Edinburgh Award and doing outdoor expeditions. And then yeah, when I was 16, I went to India and did an expedition in the Himalaya, which was amazing. And then when I moved to Scotland here, I really got into rock climbing and mountaineering in a much bigger way. So yeah, I would say in terms of the aliveness, like that has been, yeah, that's always been there. Um, but on the flip side, I also really enjoyed like maths and physics and the like rationality and logic of that. And so that's what took me to study earth sciences.
Yeah, like it's super cool because like when you're sharing, there's like this whole thing of yeah, just going back to the feeling of nature and like being in the water, and then there's this whole when you said there with the camel and packing like onto the camel and going up like different pathways, and this is like this dream state within you that I can kind of feel, which is amazing. And then it's like the other side of you, which is the physics and the maths, and it kind of feels like yeah, there's these two worlds that have come together, and I think yeah yeah there's I think you mentioned one time like there was these small projects that you're working on when you were a kid, and like they were um yeah, just when you were on the weekend you'd be, or like in the summers you'd be like making these like small business ideas for your friend, and it kind of felt like a real sort of to something. Um, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, it's funny because there was a group of us who were friends, but it was me and one other girl who like spearheaded these entrepreneurial projects. And it's been the two of us now who have come to run our own businesses, which is really funny. From the days of like we used to hand make like hand draw newspapers and things like that and sell them to the neighbors. Um but yeah, it's funny. It's like as a kid, we just did those things, without any questioning or doubt. It was really just acting on that spark of inspiration. And yeah, it feels like something that, especially in the early days of my business, I really lost touch with that, like the being able to act on the spark of something. And so, yeah, I think that's another element of this, like being able to like follow the aliveness in my work, something that I see you do really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Cheers, Debbie. Like, and to kind of to bring into this because yeah, there's like there's the piece that we did together, and which was the portrait of you, and then you helped me with my business as well, with the way to I'd say to pitch my like product, and it was like a real like two pieces there, and yeah, like one thing I wanted to bring it back to was when yeah when you were the kid spearheading these projects and like who you are today in the terms of um doing that for people and their businesses in like an adult world, and there's a real link between the two the two places, and like through me and my own business like you've really made me feel seen in what I do, and it feels and to elaborate more on that is the way that you how we initially met, because we've not said that yet, but how we initially met at summer camp by the Happy Startup school, and how we then really connected on that trip, and then how we've then kind of continued like our like friendship relationship since, and yeah, the way that yeah, you've like through your business really seen the business that I'm building as well, and the real, yeah, I guess just to touch on that point a little bit, and then there's something else I want to come into, but yeah, just to touch on the pieces that you've seen, and how you describe it, because like I think you've got real skill in reflecting back.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, like I think that there's something, so I feel like as a coach, I get to see lots of different businesses, and it feels like a real privilege to me. Like it's something that I don't take lightly. Um, because I think the type of people that I generally work with are, yeah, people like you and I, where like our business almost it lives inside of us in some way, which maybe sounds a bit like corny or something to say, but I think it's true. Like that's how, like when I think back to my corporate days, like that's how my business started. As I would describe it as this niggle inside of me. And yeah, that's the type of people that I generally work with. It's like there's something there, but I can't quite like get it out, or I don't have the words for it, or I don't quite know exactly what it is really. Um, and I think that like so often that our like the core of our business is it's there and it's solid and it's like obvious in some ways, but it's almost like and I count myself in this as well, like we cover it up with all these like layers of questioning and doubt and not knowing. And I think that's like a really natural thing to do. And so I like to think of part of my job as like connecting people back with that, like the essence of their business or like the core of their business and what they do and why they do it and why it's something that's important to bring into the world. Um, and so that's why I work with a lot of like as well as doing like talking type coaching, I work with a lot of embodiment practices because I think our body often holds that the wisdom that we can access it with a lot more simplicity than we can when we think of these things in our head. It's like we can talk and talk and talk and talk, and then in 5 minutes in the body, like something becomes more obvious or apparent. Um, But yeah, it was so interesting because it was like there was something when we first chatted and you mentioned about your portraits. Like it's hard to put, it's actually hard in hindsight to put my finger on exactly what it was, but there was just a knowing there that it was like when I describe it as being something important, like I just felt that it was something important. And I think I could see, like without knowing a lot about your story, I knew that it was something really meaningful to you. And there's a real sense of, yeah, that sense of meaning in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, like thank you for saying that. And it's because there's a real thread here because when you said there when you were growing up and you were the real spearhead for these projects that you were making, and the person you've then become, I think it's like it's amazing because who you are today in the sense of um yeah, that's what you're effectively doing for people now is you're then like seeing the thing that they're creating and being able to see the potential in it, like and like that potential might not have been seen by them, and you're helping to like get it out of them. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's a real and I guess like that's how we resonate with each other because I feel like in ways that's what I'm doing in the job I'm doing as well. And there's real like there's like and it's been amazing because like I'm doing it in one way and you're doing it in another way, but there's like a real common overlap. There's an overlap there about helping people
Yeah.
heard. And I think like the way that you go into like this links back into your physics and maths background, the or the interest you had in those subjects and the rationality and like I'd love to hear about like how like in practical ways, like how do you um then like once you've kind of caught that essence of someone, how do you then in practical ways like bring that into something that is more structured?
Yeah. So I think that yeah, I still love the like the logic and the structure that's at the basis of things like maths and physics. So yeah, despite what I say about, spending time in the outdoors and like embodiment practices as well, I think for me, on the flip side of that, I also love a good spreadsheet. Like having to spend hours like making it look nice, put in all the formula and automations in there. Like I guess this is the flip side of my work that I like that like practical, solid strategy. And um I think that now I guess I would like loosely describe myself as a business coach. I feel a bit resistant to that term somehow, but um yeah, it's one that people recognize, I guess. And I think that especially in the online world, a lot of business coaching is centered around like blueprints and three-step formulas and yeah, really like telling it's almost like making a box and then like squeezing people into it, like getting people to fit that box. And if it doesn't work for them, then the suggestion is that it's like the person isn't doing it right or whatever. Um, Whereas for me, I really like to spend time getting to know people and getting to know like their strengths and what makes them tick. And when I talked about that aliveness, like where does that aliveness sit for them? And then curating an approach around that. So I sort of think as of like a business cycle, like being that you decide what type of people you like to work with. You get to know those people, you create something that's helpful to them, and you invite them into that. And then you do the same thing. It's like a cyclical nature to that. But I guess there's so many different ways that you can go about that. So for some people, they don't like speaking publicly, so they might like writing blogs, or um, for other people, they like standing up on a stage and talking in front of people. And so really like I think, yeah, just getting clear on like knowing yourself more and knowing where that aliveness sits for you. Like once you have that in place, I think all the other decisions in your business become so much easier. And yeah, I think that's where it's really complementary with your work as well, because like so much of your work also is based around helping people know themselves now in this present moment, but like understand how like the story that brought them to this point as well.
Mm. Yeah, and yeah, like I love the way that you said that and the way that you kind of tied it up is like and 'cause there was two big points there around the different ways that people want to like public speaking might be for one person, they might not be for another person, and really kind of guiding them on that path. And then the way that you linked it back to the work I do in terms of helping people to see the journey that's got them to where they are now. And I guess like yeah, like this could be a good place to yeah, just to talk about the portrait that I created for you. Uh,
Yeah, I brought it along to showcase. Shall I showcase it? Da da da. My hair is actually the way too. Yeah.
so I guess yeah, like 'cause there's a question I want to ask, but first question is, yeah, like how what was that like for you to go through that journey of getting your portrait created?
It was like I would say for me, it was really riding on that edge between like fear and excitement. Um, I'd say, yeah, that would sum it up for me. There's something like because I know how it started was I said to you like how amazing I thought it was. Like you described the how the portraits had started and like how you told me some of the story behind the people that you'd previously created them for. And it wasn't even like when we first talked, it was not remotely in my radar that like that you would do a portrait of me. And so it really like yeah, I don't think it's something that I would have actively sought out. I do it's like it felt surprisingly vulnerable, like a surprisingly vulnerable process for me to go through. Um and I felt really like supported and held in that. And so it's been this real like after like the process of having it done and then afterwards as well has felt like I might describe it as a bit of an unraveling, but like in a really in a good way, this like yeah, working through the process has felt like such a powerful learning for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's really amazing to hear. And to say like to because yeah, just to touch on like there was the way that you shared about your business and something that's continually drawn me to you and the work that you do. And I guess parts of it came through the process that we went through and won't need to go into all the depths of it, but it's this whole feeling of the natural nature of the way that you are, you know, and the way that you carry your like clients through. And there's this whole the relational aspect of it because I think that's a really important thing to touch on because yeah, like the work that we've done together, like it's business to business, and you've done business for me, and I've done business for you, and it is a business, and it's our livelihood, and it's the way that we make money, and so that's an important aspect. But like, it's also the main aspect is the relational aspect of it, and I feel like through going through this like the business exchange or like the business that we've done for each other, like like finances aside, like something great has come from it as well. And I feel like yeah, there's sometimes that gets lost in when you're doing like negotiating in business, and the things that I've felt through you doing the work for me, like it's made me really inquire about my own business and how I structure it, and the pieces that you said there about um yeah, like linking all the back to the maths and the physics parts, and then coming all the way to the now and how you structure pe people and their businesses, and the structure you've given me to then think through has been super valuable for me to go through and put myself through that filter, because as a creative, and that's my strength, like the other parts of me like doesn't is almost like the part that needs to be more held in, and that structural business part of it is like something that I want to get better at. But like having you there to help me build structure there has been super valuable. And I think that's something I want to touch on is yeah, like that striking that balance between business and relationship. Like how like because yeah, like I've experienced that myself, but like how would you describe the way that you do that? Um,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's so much in what you said there. My head's going faster than my mouth. I'm like, oh, which bit do I go with first? Yeah, I think for me, I think that like so much of, I guess, we live in a capitalist system, and I think that the way business has traditionally been done up until now, there's like the idea of like one person can do it all, and the way that we see success is like that lone wolf type success, like one person on a like meteoric rise. Like that's what our society seems to see as success, or what we've seen. But I just don't, it's just not possible. I think that business really, like all those people, even if it appears it's one person, it's like there's a whole support system behind that person. And so I think that like one, in a practical sense in business, like it's just not possible to do it on your own. But I think the other bit that you were really touching on too is that like business, especially as a solopreneur, it can be quite a lonely journey by yourself. And it can be like, it can easily become quite isolating as well, like especially to take on that I have to do it all myself mentality. And so I think that sometimes like working in collaboration with people, it can be vulnerable, because there has, like, in order to work effectively with other people, like there has to be a relationship there, and it requires us to like show parts of ourselves that sometimes aren't necessarily the parts that we want or like feel comfortable in showing. Um, but I think that it also brings like a lot more meaning and fulfillment. And I think that, I guess, as human beings, we're wired for connection. And so, like, being able to have that connection through work and like incorporate it in business, I think is so special, really. Um, and I guess the only other part of it that I'd say would is that I speak from my own experience and like what we've done together, and also from working with other clients. I think that it's just impossible to see all the parts of ourselves. Like we can't see all the parts of ourselves in isolation. I think there's some times where yeah, we need another person to like be the mirror for us. Like in a good way and in a not so good way sometimes. It's like to show us the like those the strength. I think that people never na we can't recognize our own superpowers, but we can recognize them so easily in other people. And so people having been able to reflect that back to us, and also those like shadow like parts that are more challenging. I think sometimes it requires like a well-held space and like supportive, safe space to like share those aspects as well.
Yeah, because there's a theme there, and there's certain words that you said that were like really sort of like sticking out at me, and it was like shadow, a feeling like that how we sometimes feel lonely, like the journey of being a solo patron on I can't even say the word, but solopreneur. And then like the and like the parts of us that we can't always see, and the parts, I guess the parts that don't have a voice or we can't hear their voice. And like part of the yeah, like what I created for you was also a song that kind of went alongside the portrait. And reason why I kind of like brought that into the conversation is because yeah, like it's there's a link there. Like for me myself, like when I was doing the portrait for you, and part of me couldn't. I was like, how can I articulate what's being created here, and how can I like reflect back to Debbie, like what like her journey has meant for me, and what I want her to then feel back. And it was that whole thing of then I don't know, like I guess like wrapping my arms around you, like your entire being, and then saying like this is the way I see your entire world, and in a hope for then for you to be able to then see all those parts that maybe haven't like or maybe in the shadows more so, or like parts of you that you haven't seen before, and like I think that plays into that whole unraveling piece. But I think the thing I'm getting at is, yeah, like because it kind of links back to the whole part of like business. Like when we hear the word business, we feel it has to be done a certain way. Like okay, in business, I show up like this, and I can't bring all these other aspects into me. Like this, my business side is 9 to 5. I do X, Y, and Z, and then I switch off, and then I'm personal life. And it's like how can you blend those two worlds together? And
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, absolutely.
mm,
Um, yeah, and I was going to say like the final bit that I think about the portrait and touching on that, like the idea of wholeness. Like I love the fact that you use a defined color palette
mm,
for the portraits because to me that's what shows up there. It's like we there's some sort like there's a physical representation of like the light colors and the darker colors that we all contain, and like bringing that back to a common root somehow. There's like a real, yeah, to me, there's this real like essence of human connection that comes through in it.
yeah, like we're all made from the same parts, effectively. And
Yeah.
it links back to your work in the way that, yeah, yeah, come back to the earth, and you see in the earth as a way of like following the earth cycles, because effectively, like we all come from the soil and the ground, and that
Hmm.
very in keeping piece for how you run your business as well, like the natural aspects of it, like away from the structures that are being built, and more just like what is the cycle, and coming back to that. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So yeah, coming into a bit of a close. Um, yeah, it's been amazing to have you on today, Debbie. And I'd love to ask a last question is, yeah, how can people hear more about you and the work that you do?
Um, the probably the best stop off is my website as a starting point. So it's debbielee.co.uk. I offer a free regenerative business starter kit on there, and that can be quite a nice introduction. And also at the minute, I'm also running a gift coaching campaign. So I'm offering it's quite ambitious. I'm offering 100 gift coaching sessions over 6 months. So I'm about halfway through, and there's not quite there's enough calls left. If anybody would like to have a taster of a one-to-one session, then that's another way to connect.
Often recommend that as well as a great use of wisdom. So yeah, I highly recommend. And then final question is, yeah, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had porridge. It's like a traditional, a Scottish staple. So I had porridge and a pot of like stovetop coffee, which is another staple of mine.
Sounds incredible. Well, yeah, I guess I'll have to say what I had now. So
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I had banana pancakes with a berry jam compote that I made with fresh berries and then some peanut butter on the side to just give it a flavor. Yeah, that was my breakfast.
Awesome. What a combo. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's been amazing. And yeah, chat to you soon, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you so much once again. It's been, yeah, really, really enjoyable. Thank you.
Bye and peace out for now.
Bye.